Bulgaria held its fourth parliamentary elections on the 17th of June 2001. For the first time in Bulgaria's modern democratic history, a government managed to fulfill its full mandate of 4 years. The government of Kostov, which included the ODC and all smaller parties associated with it, promised full and transparent privatization of most government-owned industries, a sharp U-turn from the previous socialist government, which put almost all industries and prices under strict government control. The first major challenge to the Kostov government was the skyrocketing inflation, which by 1997 reached up to 1000%. The solution here came in the face of a currency board, which is an extreme form of pegged exchange rate. The Bulgarian lev was pegged with the German mark, where 1000 leva equaled 1 mark. This stabilized the inflation rates, which by the end of 1997 dropped to just 1.3%. After the inflation, Kostov's main goal was the quick privatization of key enterprises and an agricultural reform. In 2000, according to the World Bank, 45% of Bulgaria's state enterprises were privatized, while according to government statistics, that number reached up to 80%. This process of mass privatization did not result in the highly expected economic growth. Most of the privatized enterprises were already at the verge of bankruptcy, and thanks to the enormous levels of corruption on all levels of the state, most of the privatized industry was never returned back to life. Most privatized enterprises never fulfilled their promises for new jobs and higher wages, which resulted into skyrocketing unemployment, reaching up to 17%. This provoked massive distrust in the government of Kostov and his party, shown during the local elections of 1999, where most of Bulgaria's administrative centers opted to vote for the socialists or for independent candidates. Kostov's government, even though failing in its internal policies, did succeed on one front, bettering Bulgaria's image on the Balkans and in Europe as a whole. Custom duties on industrial goods fell from 15% in 1998 to 10% in 2000, and Bulgaria's rating, according to S&P Global Ratings, was improved from B to B+. When it came to NATO integration, Kostov was a staunch supporter, as Bulgarian often joined armed forces training programs with neighboring NATO members Turkey and Greece. An interesting change which even today divides some Bulgarians is the national coat of arms of the country, which was changed in 1997 from the previous post-communist one to a new one inspired from the coat of arms of the monarchist regime of Boris III. In 1996, Bulgaria and her people entered into a new page of politics with the return of the country's former monarch. Simeon Borisov Saxe-Coburg-Gotha was born in 1937 into the Bulgarian royal family, son of Bulgarian Tsar Boris III and grandson of the Italian King Victor Emmanuel III. He became Tsar of Bulgaria at the age of 6, after the death of his father, but due to the infancy of the young Tsar, a regency council was called. In 1944, a coup d'etat took place in Bulgaria, pinning against one another communist militias supported by the USSR and monarchist forces. The so-called 9th September coup was successful, and after a national referendum in 1946, the monarchy was abolished, forcing the young Tsar to flee to Egypt and later to Spain, entering into a 50-year-long exile. It is unknown what inspired Simeon to return to his homeland, be it political ambitions or simply the yearn to once again see his home, but he did return in 1996, which was seen by many as the birth of a new hope after the first turbulent years of democracy in the country. At first, Simeon did not experience any political ambitions and did not express any material ambitions towards the state, but later as time passed and the trust into the Kostov regime fell down, Simeon grew more and more confident in his chances of making a change. In 2001, just weeks before the parliamentary elections, he announced the creation of a new political project, a first in the world, a political party founded by a country's former monarch. The Kostov government, thanks to its parliamentary majority, was the first government in Bulgaria's modern democratic history to fulfill its 4-year mandate, and so the next regular parliamentary election was scheduled for June 17, 2001. Parties and coalitions. The main player on the right is once again the ODC, which now consists of only 4 parties: SDC, the Democratic Party, BSNC and the Bulgarian Social Democratic Party, the National Conservative Inner Macedonian Revolutionary Organizations, left the coalition due to disagreements with the leadership and formed its own coalition with the minor conservative party movement St. George's Day. On the left, the Democratic Left rebranded itself as Coalition for Bulgaria, and for the first time in the history of the left, formed a far broader coalition consisting of 10 parties, of which the more prominent ones were the БСП itself, the United Labour Bloc, and Безница Alexander Stambulivski. The coalition continued being chaired by Georgi Parvanov. The DPS dissolved its coalition back in 1998 and chose to form a far smaller coalition with only one other party, the minor Euro-Roma, a party created mainly to defend the rights of the Romani minority in the country. And finally, the brand new player to the stage, the NDSV, or National Movement of Simeon II. The brand new party did not even try to find a particular kind of voter to focus on, almost abandoning ideology as a whole, and mainly relying on the popularity of Simeon himself. Simeon promised lower taxes and new foreign investors in the country, and famously said that he will fix the country in 800 days. Results. Unsurprising to a lot of people, the NDSV won, winning almost 42% of the vote and 120 seats, just one seat short of a majority. Second came the ODC, which won 18.1% of the vote and 51 seats. Coalition for Bulgaria won 17.9% of the vote and 48 seats. And after them came the DPS, which won 7.4% of the vote and 21 seats. The National Conservative Coalition of VMRO and DG won 3.7% of the vote, barely missing the 4% threshold, winning them 0 seats. The turnout in these elections was 66.3%. Coalition talks. Only one party had the real chances to form a stable government, and that was the NDSV, which initially tried to form a coalition with the ODC, but after those talks collapsed, DPS came to the rescue and allowed the NDSV to reach the so needed majority. The socialists, even though not part of the government, were given 2 ministerial seats, and with that Simeon secured their loyalty in parliament, giving him a comfortable majority of 189 seats. Simeon II moved from the position of Tsar to now Prime Minister of his former kingdom.